Hi, everybody. Welcome to our recap of our first day of Comic-Con. Well, I guess it's not a recap of our first day. It is a recap of the first day so far. But we want to kind of squeeze in between the Disney panels because there's another one coming at 4 Mac Marvel HQ, right?
Yep, correct.
And so we just want to talk a little bit about what we've seen so far. But first, we got some breaking news. This just in. As you know, like the release dates have been all shuffled around. Mulan is now TBD, as well as Wes Anderson's French Dispatch. There's been some other kind of slippage here with Death on the Nile pushed back a couple weeks. Then there was one more that I'm forgetting. The Empty Man moved from August to December. But also, all the Star Wars and Avatar movies that were scheduled for December of starting in 2021 have been pushed back a year. So now you'll have Avatar 2 on December 16th, 2022, and then they'll do another one 2024, 2026, and 2028. Then there's Star Wars movies got pushed back too, so those will start now December 22nd, 2020. That's a lot of twos. December 22nd, 2023, 2025, and 2027. So you got your next decade of movies. But probably not a huge surprise. It's interesting because now the Star Wars Celebration that was supposed to happen this year is now happening in 2022, but there's not a Star Wars movie coming out in 2022.
Correct.
But so speaking of release date changes, Mac, I'm gonna go out of order. New Mutants did a panel, the patron saint of release date changes, and what was that? Talking about it.
Yeah, it's funny. They started off by like going through. They actually poked fun at themselves a little bit with going through all the release dates that they've scratched off. And then they put the release date up there, and I was like, oh, cool. That's exciting. August 28th, it's coming out. And I guess we already knew that. I kind of lost track of how many different release dates this movie has had at this point. But yeah, so they kind of just they had a lot of the cast as well as the director and producer and writer, I guess. So they kind of just talked a little bit about their experience making this movie. I guess at this point, if they even remember making the movie. But yeah, it was fun. They also actually gave you a look at the first scene. I think it was the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes of the movie too, which was exciting.
They even included the whole 20th Century Studios. I don't know what you call it. The dun 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 thing. So
fanfare.
The fanfare. They didn't even pick 2 minutes of actual movie. So you actually got 35 minutes of Alfred Newman. But
yeah, so they also shared a look at some character emojis that you can use on Twitter by using the hashtags with the corresponding character. I think it's hashtag New Mutants Magic, for example, gives you different various emojis, and then announced a Twitter contest as well, where you can potentially win a chance to go to a screening of the movie before it comes out in theaters. So you can check out all the before it maybe comes out in theaters this
right.
time.
So I think that's hilarious because it's it's gonna barely make it as it is coming out August 28th. What's the screening gonna be 12 minutes before that? How are they gonna be able to do that? We were joking about how we saw Mulan at a screening, and now it would already be not even on Disney Plus. It'd be on basic cable at this point in its life cycle. But yeah, you can go see New Mutants sometime in 2028, I guess.
I will say I am kind of looking forward to whenever I can see it. I am looking forward to actually seeing this movie. It does look pretty interesting and has some great characters.
I think this movie is one of those movies that's going to be a lot better because of the delay, just because it's got this movie is essentially defined by it at this point, as opposed to just being sort of a second tier X-Men movie that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Like now this is going to be a thing. And because it's not like a big tentpole X-Men movie, I feel like it can be one of the first movies to come out. And it'll probably get more attention than, a bigger movie that they're not going to do a Black Widow while 30% of the movie theaters are closed. But this, they could, kind of get out there, maybe go to a couple drive-ins, and then, maybe eventually put it on a streaming service of your choice, whatever, when they decide to put it on. But, kind of give it, it really will have a chance to get a lot more attention than it probably would have otherwise. Because it was going to come out like a couple weeks after Black Widow, and no one was going to notice.
Right, exactly.
So kind of going back to the beginning of the day, we had Marvel Storyboards, which is the new sort of Joe Quesada, the chief creative officer of Marvel, his like chat show, right?
Yeah. And the first episode came out today, which featured Hugh Jackman, which was a very fun episode. I really enjoyed it. Ben, you and I talked about this yesterday about how it's kind of so like Storyboards and Marvel 616 felt so similar. Now I kind of got a better idea as to what, the difference between these two series. Joe Quesada is going to interview basically a bunch of different guests from just all sorts of different, all sorts of different jobs that they do. Like obviously Hugh Jackman, and then you get Natalia Cordova-Buckley from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but then also like figure skater Johnny Weir, and so just like very different guests, and they're just kind of talk about their Marvel experiences. And Joe Quesada is going to be forced to do a lot of stuff that he normally wouldn't. So it's going to be entertaining.
So the first episode dropped today, Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm. We could talk about that in a little bit, but I understand how he knows Hugh Jackman. I understand how he knows Yo-Yo from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. How does he know Johnny Weir?
I don't think he got into his relationship with Johnny Weir, but he did say his daughter is a figure skater, at least. So I guess he has that sort of in. So there's that connection. I am excited to see him try and get on the ice. That should be interesting. This does seem like the kind of series to me that it'll kind of depend on the guest as to whether, like, your level of interest will depend on who Quesada is talking to. But based on this first episode, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I watched the Wolverine, not the Wolverine, the Hugh Jackman episode this morning.
It is Wolverine, it's okay.
I love Hugh Jackman. Like, I even went to go see him in Vegas do his like song and dance show because, I love Wolverine, but he's able to be like the nicest song and dance guy too, which is totally not Wolverine. And then when Real Steel came out, and which no one remembers, but he was at Comic-Con. I was covering the Real Steel activation, whatever you want to call it, and he was there, and he was just so nice to everybody. And I mean, he could have got, it's Comic-Con. If you want to find the bad in people, you'll probably find it. I mean, you find great people at Comic-Con, but it is sort of the, cattle line sometimes. And he was always so kind. And, the more I learn about him, the fact he played Gaston in the Beauty and the Beast musical didn't hurt. But I love him. And so anytime you can hear him talk about his ideals, I don't want to say struggle, like he's open that he kind of had a fairly easy path, but how he still in the moment struggled, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool to hear him talk about, as Joe Quesada called it, his origin story. He talks about getting fired from 7-Eleven and how when he was first offered the role of Wolverine, he didn't know that a Wolverine was a real thing. So it was a very entertaining. What was it? About 15 minutes of conversation.
So it's cool. I think it could have fit on Disney Plus. I mean, it's fine. It's on YouTube, but I mean, it's definitely better than some of the sort of short form content they have on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Looking at you, Disney Family Sundays. So, Mike, while that was happening, you were covering the Solar Opposites panel.
Yeah, Solar Opposites is a half-hour animated sitcom on Hulu by Justin Roiland and Mike McMahon, who both are come from Rick and Morty. Previous to that, I'm fans of that show, and I really like Solar Opposites as well. And this is a pretty entertaining panel. These are all really funny people. The whole cast is made up of ringers, so it was pretty amusing. And they dropped some hints at season 2. It was fun.
Cool, because the show is actually renewed for 2 more seasons. So there's a season 2 and a season 3, right?
Yeah, they talked about having gotten renewed for season 3, and that helped them actually in like plotting out the remainder of season 2 that they were working on. Like they were able to like kind of extend some of the serialized storytelling and kind of take their time and plotting out the like overarching story of the show, which is not a heavily serialized show, but there are these like beats that keep building throughout the first season, I'm sure, into the second season.
And then after that, you covered another animated show that's on Fox, Duncanville.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen Duncanville at all. I think I'd seen a couple ads for it, and then I watched, I think, 3 episodes this morning to get ready for the panel. I thought it was pretty good. It's pretty funny. It's got a great cast again. And then the panel, you had Amy Poehler and Ricky Lindholm from Garfunkel and Oates, Rashida Jones from Parks and Rec as well, and a bunch of other funny people again. Yeah, it was okay. The moderator was not my favorite. We've seen her before at Comic-Con for real, and thought she was not great there either. But she was back, and I don't want to drop any names here. I don't want to.
Just in case you can go back to YouTube and figure it out.
Yeah, I don't want to take any swings at fellow entertainment journalists, but she's not my favorite moderator. But other than that, it was fine.
So then, outside of New Mutants, probably the biggest in terms of Disney panel, in terms of, I don't know, I guess, importance, was coming Disney Plus, Marvel 616, not to be confused with Marvel Storyboards.
Yeah, like I said, these panels today kind of really separated the two for me. I'm really excited for Marvel 616 now. They had Gillian Jacobs and Paul Scheer on as guests in this panel, and both of who direct an episode of Marvel 616. And so basically, it kind of went into more detail as to the concept of the show, and or I guess explained it a little bit better. For example, Gillian Jacobs' episode focuses on like the women working in Marvel, and Paul Scheer's focuses on the most obscure Marvel characters you can find. So every episode is going to be a different topic and just a different way for people to get interested in the world of Marvel. And I think that's such a cool idea. I'm especially very excited for Paul Scheer's episode now, for sure.
Yeah, and Paul Scheer hosts on YouTube the Marvel's Greatest Book Club or something to that effect, which was started during the pandemic to kind of highlight comic book stores that were, maybe struggling. So I guess what my takeaway from it is that it's almost like it's not really even a show. It's like a branding of a set of documentaries. And so, every episode can tackle it in different ways, which is kind of cool. It's almost like if you only took the backstage episodes of the Disneyland anthology series, like they're not quite all the same, but they're united by their Marvelness. So, and did they mention how many episodes it is?
I believe they said 8 episodes, and they didn't really go into detail too much on the other 6, but they really spent a lot of time with Gillian Jacobs and Paul Scheer's episodes.
Great. So that's, as I said, we got one more, I think, today, which is Marvel HQ. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but Marvel HQ is their YouTube channel for kids entertainment, so like a lot of their animated programming that goes there. But then we have tonight at 7:30 the the Laughing Place Movie Club with X-Men Apocalypse, right, Mac?
Yes, it'll be X-Men Apocalypse after we talked about Days of Future Past last week. So we're slowly making our way down to the worst X-Men movies.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do Dark Phoenix. That might be a little too much to ask for you guys. But I kind of want to go now. You haven't been to San Diego Comic-Con, but I want to talk a little bit about what this experience is like. Last night, I was starting to get excited for we have a lot of coverage. There's a lot of work to do, and it's as close as I felt like this. I mean, Disney, Doobie handled July 17th for exceptionally, but like. We cover all sorts of events throughout the year, and normally it's a lot of work, but we haven't done that in a long time. And so I texted one of our other sort of Disney, web writers, and I was like, should I just like stay up all night? And she goes like, yeah, and you should like survive on a crappy hot dog and a bag of Skittles. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like, it's obviously not the same. I mean, there's a lot less pressure, right? Like I got into every panel I wanted, and many of them are still there for posterity, but it's just not the same as like being with everybody. But Mike, you did something fun.
I didn't do it. My wife was nice enough to try to make this experience as close to Comic-Con as possible. When I got up this morning, she had put up these signs around the apartment. I sent you a few.
Yeah, I'm going to pull them up.
Okay. But yeah, there's like at the kitchen, there's a concessions sign, and then our living room is the exhibit hall, and my office is Hall H. And there's like a little RFID scanner sign, and she actually made me a badge for today. So there you go. It has Mike Celestino Laughing Place on there, which apparently Jeremiah has gotten Laughing Palace in the past. They've spelt it wrong. So there's my cat with the badge pickup. One of my cats with the badge pickup sign. There's Hall H and the RFID portal.
Did she also bring in some strangers to just stand in line so you had to wait an hour to pick up your badge?
Well, I'm doing my part by being gross and sweaty. So
yeah, I'm not wearing deodorant during the Comic-Con home experience.
But yeah, I agree with you that it's not the same. It's nowhere close to the same. And I have to say that the stuff that they are doing, the panels that I just watched, were fine. I enjoyed watching them, but we've seen so many things like this in the past few months that it just feels like another week. Like,
yeah,
Gad got you beat, guys. Sorry.
and it loses something, I think, because it's not live.
Yeah.
And, so you lose that sort of, I mean, it helps in that you can kind of relive it and they can produce it. You don't have to worry about like Zoom dropouts. But part of the fun is just going to those like panels you don't know are going to be amazing, but just like the crazy stuff that happens because it's live. Like, whatever, every year the DuckTales panel is a highlight. Marvel H, with just the excitement. I mean, not Marvel's H, Hall H with, everything going on. The weird sort of sitting in a panel that you have no intention of, just because you want to see something afterwards. So you're sitting through something you never heard of and you're learning about something you had no idea existed. Like there's a show called Critical Role, I think, that I never heard of. But every year I seem to get stuck in their panel waiting for something I care about. And I'm like, I have no idea what's happening here. It was 1 year was before the Nightmare Before Christmas panel, which I was like, I need to be there, support my D23 peeps, and no clue. Like, and it was filled. It was more filled than for the Nightmare Before Christmas panel. And I never heard of it.
I think I sat next to you at that Nightmare Before Christmas panel because, I was working for a competing website at the time, but but the place like emptied out after Critical Role, and we were all able to get front row center seats for Nightmare Before Christmas, which didn't end up working out for my video because like the speakers were on either side of us, like way on the side, so the entire audio from my video from that panel is muffled and weird. But you never know at Comic-Con. Yeah, I miss it. Can't wait to go back eventually. Who knows when that will be? Hopefully next year.
Yeah, the folks that run New York Comic-Con announced today that they're going to do some sort of virtual thing at the end of August, probably in lieu of New York Comic-Con. I don't see that happening. There's, and I'm just, it's weird because on one side I see, the numbers rising, the cases being an issue, and the other part I'm starting to see things, like lights at the end of the tunnel. And I'm a little bit like, are we going to get back to have some fun? Because, this is the longest I've been like consecutively slept in my own bed since probably I was like 16. that didn't come out right. I mean, for going to like Comic-Cons or Disney events.
Yeah, after this year, next year, or whenever things start to get back to normal, it better be like a full year of basically like a year-long party.
Well, that it's funny because I have a milestone birthday coming up, a 40. I mean, I don't know why I acted like that's a big deal, but like I was like, I'm gonna make like that's just gonna be like it's just hitting me at the right time. I'm gonna make that a kick butt year, and I'm like, now it's I hope I can, and like even if I don't, I'm gonna have a kick butt year where I'm gonna go to New York Comic Con, I'm gonna go to San Diego Comic Con, I'm gonna go to Disney World, which is not a stretch for me, and Disneyland.
Yeah, this just sounds like a normal year for you.
Well, it's every year I go, I hate this. This sucks. Like I'm so tired. I feel gross, but I always have such a good time, and it's usually just the people. And it's the fun and it's the unexpected things. I always tell people, like even D23 Expo, like those big panels, like that's great, but that's not worth the work. Go to like the weird small one that you don't know, because that's where the little gems are. But
I always say the great thing about Comic-Con is the acceptance. Like everyone there is a weirdo, and everyone accepts everyone else pretty much. For the most part, you don't see a lot of like people making fun of anyone else or anything. It's just like, hey, that's awesome. Whatever you're dressed as, I may not even recognize it, but you put so much.
Oh yeah, there's definitely times I don't recognize it. But
I haven't been to San Diego Comic-Con, but I have done New York Comic-Con and Philadelphia. And yeah, Mike, I totally agree. Like the magic of the event is out on the show floor with people in their cosplay and just the panels are awesome. There's always some great exciting things happening, but the show floor is always so much fun.
Well, and it's funny because I remember one year I wanted to go to the Phineas and Ferb panel, I think, and I was in line, and before that panel was Avatar panel, and I don't know any. I mean, The Last Airbender, not the Disney one, and there's people dressed up, and like. I got such a rise out of seeing through that panel, not because I had any idea, but like just the emotions that people had about something they cared about being there and making an announcement that I didn't know or showing something. I mean, I had no idea what I should be excited about, but seeing them get excited and dressed up and things that I had no idea why that was there or why they were wearing whatever is super cool. And
you mentioned DuckTales before, and I remember last year you asked me to go to the Lucasfilm Publishing panel, which ordinarily would be the top of my list because I am the Star Wars guy and I read all the Star Wars books and everything. But it was opposite the DuckTales panel. I was like, I have to go to the DuckTales panel. That's the best. It's literally the best panel at Comic-Con every year. And I always laugh and like almost cry from laughter and enjoyment and just like happiness every year that my face is like red by the end of that panel. And last year was no exception. It's been fantastic every year.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why, so he wanted to go to the DuckTales panel, so I ended up having to cover the Lucasfilm Publishing panel. So if you're wondering why our coverage of the Lucasfilm Publishing panel was written by a guy who basically doesn't know who Thrawn is, it's because Mike went to the DuckTales panel.
It was great. I have no regrets. I got a green hat. Lin-Manuel Miranda was there.
When I was 5-ish, DuckTales was like the one show I watched. It was like my show, like whenever it was on. So like I'm very familiar with DuckTales. So I definitely watched the panel, but I'm there going like, and you're tweeting, and I'm going like, okay, so who is this character? Like, I mean, I like Star Wars, don't get me wrong, but I'm not really super familiar with the intricacies. And then because of that, I had to do like the whole Star Wars like morning of like Hasbro, and I learned all about different hilts that I had no idea meant anything. So yeah.
Sorry. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
I'll do it again though.
I will say it was a lot easier to schedule Comic-Con coverage this year because like I didn't have to worry about you getting into anything. Because a lot of times when we schedule Comic-Con coverage, like I'll be like, okay, here's the top, so I take out all the Disney company panels and I go, okay, so here's the top ones. And it's usually like the Disney branded stuff or, like the big Hall H and Marvel panels. And then I go, okay, So what can they get into? Because, you know, if you don't know, Comic-Con, like once you get in the room, you stay in the room. Like you don't have to leave. So you try and find where they need to get into the room to get into the panel you want. And hopefully something before that is also something you want. So you might cover like one of your C panels because it's ahead of your A panel or whatnot. So scheduling all that and figuring out where room you're going to be in, not to mention all like the covering all the offsite stuff and the press conferences is definitely a pain in the rear. But this year was a lot easier because I was like, who's got to watch this live stream? Okay. You know, and it could be anyone on our team. It's not just the ones at Comic-Con.
And tomorrow I'll happily watch the Lucasfilm Publishing panel because
great.
The DuckTales panel
doesn't conflict with DuckTales this time. But and you'll be talking about that tomorrow on our show, which I should have had this prepared. Our Comic-Con recap show is tomorrow at 6:30.
Oh wow! Okay, a little later.
Is that right?
Yeah, anyway. Then I got to go to El Capitan and get some popcorn or something.
Yeah.
Isn't it 2 o'clock tomorrow?
What's that?
2 o'clock tomorrow. 6:30 on the next day.
Okay, sorry, 2 o'clock tomorrow. And then you're gonna get popcorn at the LCAP because you do whatever I ask of you because I let you go to the DuckTales panel. Makes sense.
That's the agreement that we have. That is very true.
I'm losing my leverage this year because I can't I can't hold the DuckTales panel over your head. Yeah, tomorrow at 2, and then Saturday 6:30, and then I think Sunday's at 3. Subject to change, void where prohibited. But there's Hellstrom's coming up. You covering that, Mac?
Yes.
We also got sort of a double dose of Disney Plus with Phineas and Ferb, the movie, and The Right Stuff from National Geographic. And then you got a couple Star Wars panels, Mike.
Dr. Aphra.
Comics. You're going to be covering some actual comics. I think, is it tomorrow or Saturday? It doesn't matter. Some actual comics with the Next Big Thing panel from Marvel. So, let's see. We got one comment that came in here. Let's see. Gary is excited for your interview with Scooter tomorrow, Mike.
As you should be. It's very short but very entertaining. I was worried after I did it. I was like, did that go well? And then when I got the footage, they sent it to me in the email. It was great. I think it's hilarious.
We can't talk about the show until Monday, right?
We can't talk about Muppets now till Monday?
Your review. Like you can't review it till Monday.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I was reviewing it, but yes, I guess so. Is that when the
But yeah, and then also Monday we'll have our review of Upside Down Magic for all you DCOM fans. Do you kind of miss that Disney Channel's not doing anything this year at Comic-Con, like DuckTales or some of the other shows, Owl House, Big City Greens? Feels like.
You know what? Honestly, I enjoyed that DuckTales Comic-Con experience so much that I'm kind of glad they're not doing the watered down Zoom edition of it, and it'll be all the better next time I'm in that room with those guys and enjoying it in person.
Okay, well, so we're gonna go. Don't forget, Mac, you're on at half an hour to cover Marvel HQ, and then we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll recap the morning presentations from Comic-Con at home. So, talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.